Well, the co-main event at UFC 270 was awarded the night's fight of the night, with Deiveson Figueiredo earning back the UFC flyweight title with a razor-thin decision win over Brandon Moreno. Now, these guys have fought 3 times in 13 months, and incredibly, they are 1-1-1 at this point. Now, I'm not sure anyone could tell you who the better fighter really is at this point. So my question is, what now? Do we book the 4th fight immediately, or is that unfair because you've got some legitimate contenders like Askar Askarov, like Kai Kara-France? I mean, how should this situation play out? Let's put 4 minutes on the clock. Nolan, let us go.
I tweeted this on Fight Night before the decision was read, and for me, I mean, you could automatic rematch this 100 times and I wouldn't complain. But I think obviously when you see it and it's 1-1-1, like, do it again. I know Askar Askarov and Kai Kara-France might not love that, but I mean, we've seen fighters wait a lot longer than a year for a title shot. Those 2 guys are going to fight coming up here in March. So, would probably be looking at, if you were to do the math, probably around March of 2023, that whoever wins that fight would fight the champion should they rematch Figueiredo and Moreno rematch immediately. So I don't think it's that crazy. It's not ideal for those guys, but I think right now you got to strike when the kettle's hot. That's a big fight. That's a fight fans want to see again. There are some questions. Brandon Moreno felt like he won. Some people thought Brandon Moreno won as well. I don't want to call it a controversial decision. I scored it for Deiveson Figueiredo, but there is some discussion there. And I think our colleague, Mike Bond, he tweeted something. I don't want to give him too much credit because his head will get bigger than it already is, but he tweeted something very true. We've watched these guys fight over the span of 15 rounds of fighting, and we still don't really know who's definitively the better fighter. So the UFC's never done it before, but this is the time to book a 4th fight between the same 2 fighters. I'm just here for it. I think we could book these guys, like I said, 100 times, and we would walk away excited from each one.
Yeah, well stated there. Passionate plea. Askar Askarov and Kai Kara-France would like to have a word with you, Nolan King. I'll set that up later on. George, what do you think? I mean, can we go number 4 right away, or will we be treating those contenders badly?
Look, I mean, obviously, if we're stuck with having to watch them for a 4th time, who am I to argue with that? And they've been great fights. I really have loved this trilogy. But I love it when a division has a chance to breathe. There's also, aside from Kai Kara-France and Askar Askarov, it's a huge fight. Alexander Pantoja, he had a great case when Brandon Moreno was champ. All of a sudden, that kind of went away. But I was thinking, as Nolan King was talking and going back to the last question, how about them as the co-main event of John Jones and Francis Ngannou at Allegiant Stadium? You do that? You make that one happen, I am all in. I will see that, because I think it's going to be too soon for them to run it back in May. I mean, maybe not. They did it in 3 weeks, right? But if we're going to draw to a conclusion, then let's get it done early. Otherwise, let it breathe, and let's come up with a bunch of other possibilities for each fighter. Let's be fair to the other fighters that are just as talented. But, those are the few exceptions. Either get it done in Brazil quickly, or a stadium show, an international fight week, and make that the co-main event.
It's interesting because you talk about what fighters deserve, then you also talk about marketing as well. I do wonder, is there any possibility there might be some fatigue from fans? Like, do they want to pay for the matchup again? They have seen it 3 times already. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that plays into it all. Matt, what do you think? Should we go right away for the 4th time?
Hearing the reaction from the crowd makes me want to say that, running it back is probably the best option, because I've never heard a flyweight, no matter who it was, get that sort of reaction when they hit the tunnel like Brandon Moreno got. Yeah, it was a home game for him essentially, but just the fact that the fans are so engaged with this division and this matchup right now wants me to say, yeah, go ahead and do it. Let's see that 4th one ASAP. But also, I like the idea of letting these guys face other competitors in the meantime. Let's get at least one more fight in. Like, that's my personal preference. I would want to see one more fight. If they both go out there and get wins, then the anticipation just grows even more. I definitely do want to see a 4th fight, but I think personally, it would be better to get one fight in between. Let's let these guys focus on preparing for a different opponent, because I mean, they've got to be a little bit tired of, a game planner for the same guy over and over and over again. So let's keep these guys fresh. Let's keep their minds working, with a fresh opponent. And then after they both get one win each, let's run it back then.
That's interesting. That's a part I hadn't thought of it. Maybe those 2 guys are like, just give me a break a little bit. Like, we'll do it again down the line, but I want to fight somebody else. It's tough, right? I mean, I personally, I think I'd like to see it again right now. I know that's tough for the rest of the contenders. I think if Mexico or Brazil are options, then you kind of have to go with it at that point, right? Like, you got to get it done. But it always bothers me and worries me a little bit, right? It's such a great rivalry. If you let them fight other people, who knows what happens down the road? Maybe it never works out that they come back together. I just feel like we need to see the conclusion of this. So we'll see how the schedule plays out. I'm kind of for it, I think.